Everybody, what's up? This is Seth with SethPerler.com. I hope you're having a great start to the school year. I have an awesome question from Christy. She says her son is 13. He's in eighth grade. He loses most worksheets, project rubrics, classwork, etc. He has a binder with sections for each class. Some things make it in, and many others don't. When they do make it home, I make copies of the important stuff that he needs for fear of them being lost. He doesn't know where the lost things go. Help. He's missing an important worksheet due tomorrow and words, definitions they did in class that he needs to study for a test. How do we prevent him from losing so many papers? What systems work or don't work for you? Is this something that I should be punishing him for or no? It's so frustrating. I hear your frustration. This is a really difficult and complicated issue, and there's a lot of aspects to it. I'll try to cover some of that and hopefully give you some guidance and solutions that might work for you. So he's 13, he's in eighth grade. Obviously, next year in ninth grade, things are going to get even more intense. So taking this very seriously this year is really important. And one of the things I want to mention about that, because you're not going to be able to make copies forever, you're going to get even more and more papers next year. So one of the things that I want to mention about getting this done this year is doing the weekly overhaul. Sounds like you're very involved, and that's awesome. And the weekly overhaul in my blog I send out as one of the in my mini course. I just resend it out to everybody actually. Um, but on the weekly overhaul, what I recommend if Sunday nights work for you is that every Sunday night you go over all the systems and sort of do a reset like you would do on your telephone, but you're doing a reset of the folders and the planner and everything. And on that reset night, on that Sunday night or whatever time you choose to do that with your child, you go over everything, you go through everything with a fine tooth comb. So when I'm working with clients, I'm doing this at least on a weekly basis. I'm going through every single pocket in the backpack. I have them bring everything home from school. I don't want anything in the locker, in the school desk, whatever, whichever one they have, depending on what age they are and what the school is like. I want everything with us so that we can go through everything with a fine tooth comb because they do not have, they don't track details well. So they need to be supported in that, especially if they're going to get dinged by the school for not having stuff. You really need to make sure they have it, but you also want to teach them to have that system. So anyhow, part of what I would do this whole eighth grade year is do a Sunday overhaul. Um, but it sounds like you're already doing a lot of that, but that's something I would keep doing the entire school year. You want to do what's called gradual release of responsibility, which means that week by week, month by month, you're getting your child to take more and more responsibility of the process of getting organized. Of course, your child needs to spend a lot of time just doing the homework and studying right now and probably doing makeup work, unfortunately. But as the year goes on, you want them to take more of the responsibility of getting it organized. So he has a binder with sections for each class. Some things make it in, and many other things don't. If he's not required to use binders by the school, I don't like binders at all. I like simple folders. Now, for a kid like that who loses tons of stuff, I would probably just go with literally the folding folders that don't even have pockets. One color for each class, so blue one, red one, green one, yellow one, orange one, whatever. And I would probably give them a zip binder that it can those can go in. And at this point, I would just want my child to get it in that thing, or if it's in the back, if those folders in the backpack, just get the papers in the backpack. I'm not so concerned about the folders. When they get home, you can help them reorganize the folders every day for a while. If you can do that, I mean, this kiddo really is starting ground zero. They really need to really be starting from a place, assuming that they really don't know how to do this and build from there. So simple, simple, simple system. I would not use a binder. It's just too tedious for your child to use. So I would nix the binder and get some simple folders. You could do the pocket folders. Either one is fine, but simple folders. And I would for this kiddo, I would use the Queuue. Queuue. This, if you look in my blog and look up the word Q in the blog search and watch the video about the queue is just sort of a catch-all place, because if I was working with your kid, I would tell them, look, either get the papers in the right folder, or at the very least jam them into the queue and we'll deal with them after school. So at least if they're not putting the wrong papers in the if they're not putting the wrong papers in the wrong folders, or papers from the wrong class into a folder that's not for that class, at least if it's stray in the backpack or it's in the queue, you can reorganize it. So I'd probably start with that. I also talk a lot about minimalism. I would not keep stuff that does not need to be kept. Now, if you're making copies of important stuff, that's one thing. And I would have an archive. I talk a lot about an archive, but I would not keep anything that does not need to be kept. I would trash it. If you know, I don't, if it's completed work and it's been graded and the teachers put it in the grade book, done. Get rid of it. If you're afraid they'll need it to study for a test, 99% of the time they don't, because the teacher will give a study guide. So that's a big misconception a lot of times. If they really do, that's one issue, but mostly I want them to have 5 to 10 papers in any given folder at any given time. I want it to be pretty current work. I don't want them to have a bunch of old stuff in there. So I would help with that. Um, you said he doesn't know where the lost things go. He probably really doesn't know where they go. He's missing an important worksheet due tomorrow. I would be advocating for him, emailing the teacher. I would. A lot of teachers will put this stuff online so that you can get it. So I would be scouring the teachers' websites. I would be emailing them like heck. I wouldn't email them long emails. I'd email short, bulleted emails. We need support. We need help. My kid's struggling with executive function. Please support us. Can you please help us with copies? Our kid just loses them. I get every year I get a kid or two who I start working with them and I start going through the backpack and I start pulling everything out and I notice that there's like there are some papers where there's like 3 copies of the exact same thing and none of them are done. And I say, why do you have 3 copies of this? And they say, oh, well, I lost one, so I asked the teacher for another one, then I asked for another one. So that's these kids. That's the kiddo you have. And so those teachers that are making all those copies, they're really nice to do that. But if they can email it to you, that's a lot easier. If your child can take a picture of it or the teacher can take a picture of it, that's a lot easier also. And if the teacher already keeps it online on their site, that's the best, because then uh, everything is covered and there's no problem. Um, so, how do we prevent him from losing so many papers? I would say use the queue, do a daily overhaul for now. For probably the first 8 weeks of school, I would do a daily overhaul with or without him. I would reorganize. Sometimes I would do it with him, but sometimes I would just do it for him. He does not have the skill. It's not going to magically appear. So as far as punishing him, the word punishment, I wouldn't punish him because it's not going to change the behavior. Is it a can't or a won't? It sounds like he can't. He does not have the executive function skills to do what he is being asked to do. So punishing him is not going to change that behavior. Now, consequences, there's a time and a place for a natural, appropriate consequence that's going to make a connection between what's going on here and might heighten his awareness and change the behavior. So try it. Um, I had a mom recently saying that she threatened to go into her middle school's school in the classroom to deal with it in front of everybody to get stuff if he didn't do certain things. And that's an appropriate consequence. It's like she was so fed up, she's going to go in there, and regardless of how embarrassing it is for him, she's going to get what needs to be gotten. Um, and that has affected this kid. Not that that's going to work for everybody, but you have to really think: is it an appropriate thing? You're not doing it out of anger. You're doing it out of this frustration, obviously, but not at anger towards your child. You're trying to support your child. If you come at it from that frame and you're like, look, I'm going to do this if you don't do the X, Y, and Z. This needs to happen. It might help. But it sounds like this kiddo really does need to build these systems. So a simple folder system, a simple queue system, really being on top of them every day for a couple months. So I hope that helps a little bit. And It's a really complicated issue, and I wish I could be hands on with the kiddo so that I could help you, but that's you know I just can't. But check out my course, that course video on the Q, and that might help too. Okay, good luck. Take care.